My mission for this course is the mission that I have ongoingly for myself, and that is to set people free while I am learning to set myself free. Yes, I know some things, but I don't know everything. I am still someone in the process as well of undoing this programming. I've come a long way. I feel a whole lot better than I did 10 years ago. I feel a lot more like me. I feel a lot more free. And I've broken through a lot of boundaries and chains and limitations that were in my own brain. But it's so exciting to me, the idea of helping others who lived under intense limitation for years understand and believe and see and experience that this world is an open world video game, and that in this life you can do whatever you want. Take that statement as broadly and as literally as you would like. And even I want to encourage people that every single block and limitation they run up against with that question, oh, what about this? What about this rule? What about this thing my parents told me? What about this thing the government says? What about this thing that my job says? What about this thing that society says and my moral and ethical values that have been baked into me as well? I can't do that. I can't do such and such. Every time that sort of thinking comes up, just evaluate it. What is the rule? What is the block? What is the limitation? What is that boundary line that you're telling yourself or that you have been told that you cannot cross? And why? Why? Whose rule is it? Whose rule is it? Is it yours? Do you actually believe it? Or is it just what you have been told that you have to do and that you are supposed to do? It is my belief that it is my purpose and your purpose in this life to be the fullest expression of who you are, to be the you-est you that can possibly be, that whatever that spark is in the depth of your soul that you know would bring you the most joy and the most excitement to do and to follow and to fulfill, that little still quiet voice, or maybe it's a big huge voice, that is God. That's not the man in the sky. That is pure awareness, pure divinity that you already are, that is dying to come out. It's excited to come out. That is a North Star for you. That is a point of direction to follow. And I have found that the more that I lean into that excitement, that joy, following that pleasure and bliss, and doing the thing that feels the most Josh Gaines that I can possibly do in this life, even when it feels scary, even if it feels scandalous or dangerous or against pushing up against limitations within myself that I used to have, the more that I follow that, the more full and broad and free my life gets, the more I meet the people that I was supposed to meet at the exact right time in order to further this dream and this goal, and the more that I meet like-minded people who are thinking in a similar way, who have had to shed their own programming and beliefs. So if it feels scary, if it feels impossible, if it feels like the things that you want to do that feel the most true are, if it feels like there's no way you could possibly go after it, I understand, but you can. And in fact, I would say you must. It is imperative in this life that you push past that fear, that you take even one step outside of the boundary that you think is there towards that goal, towards that desire, towards that dream, and show yourself that you are capable of breaking these bonds. Show yourself that you believe and trust that you are supposed to pursue that because it feels the most true. The dream or idea that you have might be something that no one has ever done before. It might be a particular combination of circumstances, of ideas, a combining and meshing a handful of things that has seemingly never been done by another human before. And that is so exciting. That's evolution. That's progress. That is human development, and that is human awakening. These innovations, these new ideas. If you feel like that is true, do it. I'm also going to say it's possible that your dream, your desire, what feels the most true that you want to pursue and have maybe been told that you can't, as long as it's not causing suffering to any other person, if you are not actively harming someone, then pretty much anything goes. Even if your desire, your intention, your dream, the thing that you have imagined goes against societal boundaries, goes against the moral and ethical code that you have been taught, even if it goes against the way that government is run. That might sound incredibly out there to some of you. You might not know what the fuck I'm talking about. Proceed with caution, use discernment, but can I just suggest that just because society is run the way that it is currently, and the way that government is run and the laws that are in place does not mean that that is the universal truth for how humans are supposed to be. So just be careful. Don't go out there and say that Josh Gaines told you to commit a felony. I just mean don't be deceived that the way things are is the right way to do things. And in fact, I think we can see that a lot of what has been established here is not natural to the way that humans are supposed to operate. And these systems that are in place are actively hurting people, are actively taking advantage of people and punishing people for being poor or for being the wrong race or for being born into the wrong area. So just experiment with the idea that anything goes. Anything goes. Because from a certain perspective, it is all divine, it's all holy, it's all God. Ordinarily, someone would put their mission for a course at the beginning of something, but I intentionally put this section closer to the end because I had to lay some groundwork with you first before dropping those ideas that can feel big, that can push against the boundaries of what you've been taught, but just play with, just experiment with the thought idea. That's all it has to be. It doesn't have to be anything dangerous or scary. It's just, what if? What if there were actually no rules? What if you could actually do whatever you want? Because from a certain perspective, it is all one awareness. It is all the experience of God. And that you have to show yourself, you have to be brave and step out of your comfort zone and do the scary thing and realize that once you arrive there, you are stronger than you thought, you are more resilient and capable than you thought, and that you're still okay, and that there is nothing to be scared of. There is no judgment, there is no punishment, and that you were free the whole time. It's very likely that you're going to run into some pushback with the people in your life, especially if you are still surrounded by or friends with or family with people who believe what you used to believe. Those of you who are still married or in a relationship with someone who is still a Christian or still religious or just not unpacking these things in the same way that you are, you will have the biggest challenge. But I was in that position too. I was leaving my faith while the person I was married to was still holding on to it. And it was not easy. So I empathize with that big time. But as much as you can, don't let that discourage you. Don't let that stop you from doing the work that you're doing. Maybe to a certain extent, don't share with them necessarily what you believe or what you're processing if it's not helpful, if you're getting feedback from them, if they're not open to hearing it and they are still trying to convince you, if they're still trying to pull you back in and they're telling you that you're doing something dangerous or heretical and that they're trying to convince you of what the very thing that you're trying to leave. If it's not helpful to share with them what you're processing, then don't share. And remember that they are still operating under old programming. It doesn't mean they're bad. It doesn't mean they're dumb. It doesn't mean they're foolish. They're working with what they got. And it is understandable if they are still in that framework. It's not easy, especially with parents, especially with close friends, especially with a church congregation that is maybe telling you that you're sinful and you're doing something dangerous and you're leaving the faith and all this. It's like, as much as you can, just let that roll off. None of that is real or true. That is the perspective of people who are still lost in a delusion. And it's okay. You are carving out your own path and you are doing incredibly brave, difficult, amazing work by doing so. You are you are setting out on your own in a beautiful way, and keep at it. What you are doing for yourself feels the most true. Do whatever you got to do to navigate, I don't know, family dinners or whenever you're around these people and these things may come up. Maybe the less said, the better. Maybe it's as simple as, I'm just thinking about some new ideas. I'm just exploring something different. I'm just being curious about it. It's going to be different for everybody, but if you're experiencing that pushback, I understand, and don't let it discourage you. Let it go. As much as you can, let it go. It does not matter if your family is upset. It does not matter if your spouse or wife or girlfriend or boyfriend or partner is upset, is offended, if they're mad at you. It doesn't matter if your fucking pastor calls you for a one-on-one coffee and tells you that he thinks you're doing something dangerous. None of that matters. None of it. Don't let it get to you. Your experience is most important. That might be hard to believe. That might even feel selfish or self-centered. It is not. You are the one in this body. This is your life. This is your soul. This is your incarnation. This is your experience. And you are here to set yourself free. And it took me years to acknowledge that for myself, to believe that this is what is most important. This is the consciousness I am in, and this is what I need to focus on. And fuck whatever everybody else says. They are in their own consciousness, their own experience. They're doing their own thing, and they are going to have to figure out their own path. So I know it's hard. I've been through it. I walked through all of this stuff that I'm saying, and there was pushback, and I doubted myself. I was like, man, maybe I am doing something wrong. But give it enough time and that will go away. It will pass and it will become so incredibly clear the more time that you are out of that delusional thinking, the more time that you are away from that programming, that you will look back at it and just be like, how on earth was I so deluded before? How on earth did I ever believe that that was it? Because my own experience has shown me that that was never true. You are who is most important. Focus on you. It's not selfish. It's the only thing you have in this life is your consciousness. So protect it and fight for that. You're doing great. I also want to say that at the end of this course, even if you have disidentified with the title of Christian and you have firmly left organized religion for good, it's still okay under this new way of thinking to resonate with some of the language and concepts of Christianity. I still sometimes take out the Bible and flip to something at random, whether Proverbs or probably, something New Testament. And because I can look at it, I can look at the words of Jesus through a new lens of understanding that he was an enlightened teacher, perhaps, who was speaking a certain kind of truth to the people of his time. And I can recognize that that doesn't mean that it's the complete whole truth for everyone for all periods of history. But if all of this was the experience of God and Jesus, the person, was an enlightened being, then I can interpret his words differently and they can still have meaning. They can still have lessons for me that I can integrate into my own life. It doesn't all have to go in the garbage, And so do with that what you will. If you still feel like praying to God, the Father, or if you still feel like having a relationship with Jesus as kind of an archetype, as a figure or as a form of divinity, if you feel like praying to saints and asking for their assistance in your life, I think there is a certain legitimacy to all of that, as long as you know that those are still just placeholders for the ultimate truth, and that the ultimate truth that God is in everything and that God is everything, that the fullness of awareness is experiencing all of this through your body and through your consciousness. You just have to recognize that you already have the full truth within. You already have everything you are longing for and searching for. And these forms can be helpful to point us back to that. So it's totally fine to still identify with that language if you would like. So I want to thank you for coming on this journey with me. If you watched all the modules, hell yeah. I'm so glad to have you here. I hope you have found some encouragement, some empowerment, and some excitement that you can shed these layers, even if it is a continual process, that you can become more free, that you can become more your fullest and truest, most beautiful, vibrant self. That is the best thing that you could do in this life. So go towards what feels exciting. Do the crazy thing that you thought you never could do, because the more that you push past, the more that you go towards that and you step outside and you start living the way that you want to live, the more you will realize that you were always free and that these chains and mindsets, these boundaries that were put on you by religion were never actually real. They were all just programming, they were all imaginary, and that you are set free to live this life like a great adventure, to have big, beautiful experiences, to have more joy, to experience zero fear of judgment, of hell, of wrath, to recognize the only judge was you. It was you in a mask that called itself God. You're free. And that is my hope for you, that you can walk away from here starting today and feel more calm and at ease, and to realize that there were never any dark clouds following you around called God, and that from this moment forward, you can live a more vibrant life. So I love you. Thank you. Mwah, 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 mwah. Have fun.